The sea always brought my father home with fish for dinner, but it never carried back my sketched dreams from the sand before the tide washed them away. I was 7 when I first drew what I called a perfect house on the beach of our village in Senegal. My father laughed, patting my head. "Fatou, houses aren't built on paper, they're built with hands." He was wrong. I know that now. My name is Fatou. I'm 26, and I design sustainable housing projects in Paris. The journey from my fishing village to my drafting table spanned 3,800 kilometers, but the real distance was measured in the obstacles I faced, not the miles I traveled. Our village sat where the Atlantic Ocean met the Senegalese coast, a cluster of modest homes with corrugated metal roofs that sang during rainstorms. We had no architects there, just fishermen, like my father, and women who sold the catch at the market, like my mother. "Drawing houses won't feed us," my mother said when she caught me sketching building designs instead of helping prepare dinner. She wasn't being cruel, she was being practical. In our village, dreams had sharp edges that needed to be filed down to fit reality. But I kept drawing. On scraps of paper, in the margins of my school notebooks, in the sand when no one was watching. Buildings with wide windows to catch the breeze, with courtyards where rain could be collected, with spaces that made sense for families like mine. My teacher, Mr. Diop, noticed. "You have a gift, Fatou. These aren't just drawings, they're ideas." He showed me a magazine with pictures of famous buildings around the world. The Eiffel Tower, the pyramids, the skyscrapers of New York. These all started as drawings too. That magazine changed everything. I taped it above my sleeping mat and looked at it every night before bed. I told myself, one day, I will design buildings that people see in magazines. School ended at 16 for most girls in my village. Marriage followed. Then children. My best friend Amina was engaged at 17 and pregnant by 18. I loved her, but I couldn't follow her path. "I want to study architecture," I told my parents one night after dinner. My father set down his tea. "With what money? From which university that would accept a fisherman's daughter?" Their doubt wasn't wrong. We had 600 francs, $1 for emergencies hidden in a tin behind the stove. University costs thousands. The odds were like catching a swordfish with bare hands. Yet Mr. Diop came to our house the next day. "There's a scholarship program for students from West Africa to study in France. Fatou should apply." My mother looked scared. "Paris? That's not for people like us." "It could be, Mr. Diop said. I spent 3 months preparing my application. I drew until my fingers cramped. I wrote my essay 20 times. I practiced French until I dreamed in it. The acceptance letter came 6 months later. Full scholarship to École Spéciale d'Architecture in Paris. My village celebrated like I'd already become something grand. "Don't forget us when you're famous," they said. I packed one suitcase and promised I wouldn't. Paris hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. The buildings I'd admired in pictures were real, but so were the tiny apartment rooms that cost €800 a month. My scholarship covered tuition and gave me €500 monthly for living expenses. Math was simple, I couldn't afford to live. I shared a 15 square meter studio with 2 other African students in the 19th arrondissement, far from my school. The commute took 45 minutes each way. We took turns sleeping on the single bed. The others used mats on the floor. Each month, I sent €50 home to my family, leaving me with barely enough for food. The school itself was another shock. I'd been top of my class in Senegal, but here, I struggled. Other students had traveled, had seen famous architecture firsthand, had parents who were engineers or artists. They spoke of concepts I'd never heard of, used software I'd never touched. In class, a professor marked my design with red lines. "This is elementary work, Miss Ndiaye. Perhaps you're not ready for this program." That night, I sat on a bench by the Seine and cried. A French couple walked past, stared, then whispered something about immigrants. I felt like a failure, invisible and visible in all the wrong ways. I called my father from a payphone. I want to come home. His voice crackled through the line. The sea is still here, Fatou. It will be here if you come back tomorrow or in 10 years. But you are not the same girl who left. I didn't quit. I couldn't afford to. I found a job at a cafe near school, working breakfast shifts before class and weekend doubles. The owner, an Algerian man named Karim, let me study during slow periods. My daughter wants to be a doctor, he told me. I tell her the same thing I'm telling you. We didn't come to this country to sweep its floors forever. I used the cafe's computer after hours to learn the design software my classmates took for granted. I stayed up until 3 a.m. Woke up at 5 a.m. Ran on coffee and determination. When French students complained about workload, I bit my tongue. They had no idea what work meant. In my second year, we had a project to design affordable housing. While others created sleek, minimal spaces that photographed well, I designed homes that reminded me of my village, practical, community-focused, built for real people who needed to stretch every franc. My professor stopped at my presentation. This is unexpected. I braced for criticism. You've considered things the others haven't. Cost of maintenance. Natural temperature regulation. Spaces for extended families. He nodded slowly. You're thinking like an architect now. That night, I called home again. I think I'm going to make it, I told my father. My final year, I interned at an architecture firm specializing in sustainable design. The senior architect, Claire, became my mentor. Your background isn't a weakness, she told me after I explained my approach to a project. It's your strength. You know what matters in a home because you've lived without luxury. My thesis project focused on affordable, sustainable housing for coastal communities affected by climate change. I designed homes that could withstand flooding, capture rain for drinking water, and remain cool without air conditioning. When I presented, I brought pieces of my village with me, not just in my designs, but in my voice. These aren't just buildings, I told the jury. They're solutions for real people. I graduated with honors. Claire offered me a junior position at her firm. My starting salary was 38,000 euros a year, more money than my entire village saw in months. The first thing I did was send enough money for my parents to repair their roof. The second was to start a scholarship fund for students from my village. Today, I work on projects across West Africa and France. Last year, I returned to Senegal to break ground on a community center I designed for a village near my own. My parents stood in the front row at the ceremony, my father wearing his best shirt, my mother crying with pride. Did you ever think your drawings would become real? A local reporter asked me. I thought about the little girl drawing in the sand, the teenager on the bench by the Seine, the student working double shifts to make ends meet. Every day, I said. Even when no one else did. My journey taught me something they don't teach in architecture school. We all build our lives one decision at a time. Each choice is a brick. Each relationship is a support beam. Each failure is a necessary foundation. I still send money home every month. I still work harder than most of my colleagues. I still feel caught between worlds sometimes, too European for Senegal, too Senegalese for Europe. But standing in the spaces I've designed, watching people make homes and buildings that began in my mind, I know this: dreams drawn in sand can become concrete and steel if you're willing to build them yourself. What dreams are you letting the tide wash away? What foundations are you afraid to break ground on? The distance might seem impossible, 3,800 kilometers or just across town, but the journey happens one step at a time. The blueprint is already in you. You just need to start building.